What's this military-grade optics? Civilian IDs expired. Open the entire bag. Private Cole Madden didn't wait for permission. He and Sergeant Ray Lindell flipped the dusty olive backpack onto the steel table and tore it open like they were raiding enemy contraband. The woman didn't move. She just stood there calm, unreadable. Her silence wasn't passive. It was deliberate. A quiet that came from somewhere deep. Her faded work clothes, canvas jacket, scuffed boots, hair tied back with no care for appearance didn't match the gear now clattering across the table. A soldering iron, a high-frequency optic calibrator, a crumpled military map, a thick logbook bound in leather, dense with scrawled notes and code. Too much, too exact, too military. She had arrived at Fort Keystone checkpoint just after noon, holding a temporary contractor pass to consult on a classified drone radar calibration issue. But her pass had expired 2 weeks ago, and that was all Madden needed. "Ma'am," Lindell said sharply, "you're carrying equipment you're not cleared for. Where did you get this gear?" The woman, Marla Briggs, according to the outdated credentials, said nothing. She simply unzipped another flap without argument. Not one complaint, not one defensive word. Her hands moved with precision, like she'd done this before, a lot. Still suspicious. The guards began searching more aggressively, unzipping side pockets, digging into the lining, even slicing the seams. And that's when it happened. From a hidden compartment, something slipped out. A folded cloth, black, worn, an embroidered patch sewn in fading gray thread, a wolf silhouette fading into fog. Sergeant Lindell's hand froze mid-rip. "What the hell is this?" he muttered. Confused, he didn't get an answer because someone else had just stopped in his tracks. Colonel Dean Whitaker, en route to a routine systems briefing, had caught a glimpse of the emblem as he passed the checkpoint window. He halted like he'd seen a ghost. He stepped in slowly, eyes fixed on the cloth now lying among the scattered tools and maps. He leaned down, close enough to see the stitching detail. Then he spoke low and firm. "Stand down. Don't touch anything else." The room went still. That's Spectre Division. Private Madden looked at Sergeant Lindell. Both had heard of the name, but only in whispers. A unit that wasn't supposed to exist anymore, not even in old databases. The woman didn't flinch. She didn't smile. She didn't correct them. She just stood there, back straight, eyes forward, like someone who'd been erased, but never forgotten. And at that moment, they all realized this wasn't just a woman with expired ID. This was someone who used to build the systems they barely understood. And, for some reason, she was back. What the checkpoint guard saw was a suspicious civilian with expired paperwork and military gear she shouldn't have. What they didn't see was someone who no longer officially existed. Marla Briggs wasn't just another contractor. She was a remnant of something long buried, a name erased from records that were never meant to surface again. The Spectre Division. Once a Black Ops unit so classified it had no official charter, had been disbanded after a mission overseas imploded under political pressure. Officially, every operative was declared KIA. Unofficially, some had survived and vanished by choice. Marla was one of those ghosts. She'd lived in the space between existence and erasure, and now, somehow, she was back. Colonel Dean Whitaker stared at the faded patch on the table, frozen, like he'd seen something holy or cursed. The Fog Wolf emblem of Spectre Division had once meant top-tier field intelligence, elite systems warfare, and absolute silence. "Stand down," he repeated. "Firmer. Don't touch anything else. That's Spectre Division." Private Madden blinked. "Sir, that unit's not even in the archives anymore." "Exactly." Whitaker cut in, without looking away. In that moment, Marla went from invisible to undeniable. Whitaker didn't waste another word. He motioned her inside the checkpoint's interior office. The heavy door shut behind them, muffling the whispers of the guards outside. Inside the dim office, Whitaker faced her, You were declared KIA, he said quietly. Darshan Province, 2011. You and your whole team. Marla's reply came steady. No edge, no emotion. That's what the records say. But some of us made it out. We weren't supposed to exist after that. She unzipped a hidden flap on her backpack and placed a logbook on the desk. Not a tablet, not a drive. A weathered, hand-bound field log. Inside pages of encrypted notes, radio patterns, time-stamped spectrograms, and drone interference sketches, some of them weeks old. Whitaker flipped through one of the latest entries, pausing at a sequence. He looked up slowly. This interference signature, it matches the anomalies we've been chasing for the last 3 months. He narrowed his eyes. How do you even know about our classified training ops? Marla didn't blink. Because someone's broadcasting a backdoor signal into your drone network. It's not equipment failure. Colonel, it's deliberate. Someone's exploiting your systems. Whitaker leaned back, tension tightening in his jaw. Why didn't you come forward sooner? Why the expired visitor pass? The side door approach. Her voice didn't waver. Because last time I tried to help, they scrubbed my name from every database. Spectre Division doesn't exist. I don't exist. But the threat to your operations, that's very real. Whitaker studied her face. He didn't see a civilian. He saw someone who knew exactly what she was doing, and someone who'd paid the price for trying to help before. Colonel Whitaker didn't ask another question. Instead, he turned to the window and quietly signaled a tech officer. Run a full legacy scan, handwriting comparison, look for the old Spectre ops. Focus on the call sign Echo 7. Marla stayed seated, arms folded, completely calm like she'd done this verification ritual before, probably more times than she should have needed to. 20 minutes later. The tech officer returned, clutching a red-stamped folder labeled Historical, Classified. Sir, the match is exact. This is Echo 7. Signal Intelligence Specialist. She designed the original counter-jamming protocols. We're still using them today. Whitaker looked back at Marla with something new in his eyes, respect, tinged with the weight of everything he hadn't known. You built the systems that protect this base. Marla didn't flinch. I built the foundation, but someone's figured out how to exploit the flaws I couldn't fix. 12 years ago. Whitaker absorbed the implications. You're saying the vulnerabilities in our drone grid are from unfinished Spectre code. Marla gave a slow nod, and whoever's doing this knows exactly how that code works. Silence fell between them, but it wasn't empty. It was heavy with the realization that this threat wasn't random. It was personal. So, either our black files have been compromised, Whitaker said, or someone else from your unit survived and turned. Marla was quiet for a long moment. I hoped I was the only one, but the signal patterns in your drones, they look familiar. That was all he needed. What do you need to stop this 48 hours? She said. Full access to the drone control network, and a tech team that follows orders without asking too many questions. Done. Over the next 2 days. Marla worked with a sealed team of 3 hand-picked technicians. She didn't just understand the base's drone systems, she moved through them like the person who wrote their DNA. Because in many ways, she had. Lieutenant Carter Graham, the youngest of the techs, wasn't convinced. Sir, we're handing our entire drone grid to someone with an expired visitor pass. Whitaker didn't respond. He didn't need to. After 6 hours watching her reroute encrypted fallback protocols, reprogram signal partitions, and install invisible counter-access filters. Carter wasn't asking questions anymore. She's not fixing it, sir, he whispered later. She wrote it. Rumors swirled across Fort Keystone, that woman from the checkpoint. She's not a contractor. She's a legend. Spectre Division wasn't that just a myth, but the whispers turned to silence on day 3, during a routine drone training flight. 3 aircraft suddenly lost GPS lock mid-air. They veered wildly on a collision path. No warning, no time to react. Then, Marla's protocols kicked in. Backup systems held the drone steady, manual control re-engaged, disaster averted. Without her code, the base would have lost $42 million in equipment, and possibly lives on the ground. She hadn't just saved the drones, she'd saved the base, and yet, she didn't say a word. That night, Colonel Whitaker called an emergency briefing. All senior officers at Fort Keystone gathered in the war room, still shaken by how close they'd come to losing control of the airspace. He stepped up to the front, voice firm, eyes scanning every rank in the room. 3 days ago, we nearly lost 3 aircraft. What we thought was equipment failure was sabotage deliberate and precise, executed using techniques designed to exploit our own systems. He gestured toward the back of the room. Standing there, silent, in a plain field jacket, Marla Briggs. Thanks to Echo 7, formerly of Spectre Division, this base not only avoided disaster, but now has the most advanced drone defense protocols in the military. A low ripple moved through the room. One of the majors in the front row raised his hand. "Sir, Spectre Division was decommissioned over a decade ago. How can we verify this woman's credentials without a word?" Whitaker reached under the podium and held up a classified folder. "Red seal broken. Because I was there, when her unit saved 47 American soldiers in the Darshan ambush. I was one of them." The room went still. Echo 7 didn't just write the systems that protect this base, she kept them running, under fire, while her team held the perimeter during a full extraction. He turned toward Marla, and in front of the entire command staff, Colonel Whitaker saluted her. "Ma'am, it's an honor to finally thank you properly." Everyone waited for her to respond. She didn't. For a long moment, Marla said nothing. "Then, Colonel, I didn't come back for thanks. I came back because I recognized the attack pattern." A murmur swept through the room. "Someone else from my unit is responsible for these intrusions." That hit like a bomb. A rogue Spectre. No one had even considered the possibility. "Do you know who Whitaker?" asked. Stepping forward, "Not yet," Marla replied. "I have my suspicions. But one thing I do know, this won't be the last attempt. Spectre was trained to persist. We were built for that." Whitaker didn't hesitate. "Then I want you here, full clearance, permanent consultant status. Help us stay ahead of whoever this is." Marla paused, then looked him dead in the eye. "I'll help you catch them, but I work alone. No rank, no title. And I don't want my name in any system. Some ghosts are better left that way." The room fell quiet again, not out of confusion, but out of respect. Everyone in that room, seasoned officers, hardened by service, knew what kind of person refused recognition, and kept showing up anyway. And they understood what it meant to have a legend who didn't want to be found, still fighting to protect them. Some people fight for medals. She fought to keep her unit from being erased. Marla Briggs refused all offers. No reinstated rank, no title, no permanent assignment at Fort Keystone. "I didn't come back for recognition," she said. "I just didn't want another unit to disappear, the way mine did. So instead, she came back in her own way, once a week, always in civilian clothes. No one announced her arrival. No one dared question it. She would walk the corridors quietly, scanning new drone systems, testing for breach patterns, updating encrypted fallback protocols only she fully understood. The tech team stopped calling her by rank. They simply referred to her as Miss Briggs, but the tone they used carried more weight than any military salute. Outside the checkpoint booth, where her bag had once been torn apart, a small steel plaque was mounted without ceremony. No press release, no speech. It read, "For the one who didn't need orders to protect us. Spectre lives on. Sometimes." As she left, Marla would pause near it, but never for long. She preferred to move on, to work without ceremony like she always had. One afternoon, as she stepped out toward the lot, someone called after her, "Ma'am." She turned. It was Private Madden, the same guard who had ripped through her backpack on day 1. He stood straight, eyes steady. I wanted to apologize for how we treated you at the checkpoint. Marla didn't scold him, didn't smile, just gave the smallest of nods. You were doing your job. I respect that. He hesitated. Still, we should have known. She looked him in the eye. You couldn't have known. That's the point. 6 months later, the drone interference stopped completely. No more anomalies. No more signal breaches. Whether Marla had found the rogue operative, or whether her upgraded systems had simply made further attacks impossible, no one knew for sure. But Fort Keystone's defense protocols became the new national model, copied across installations around the country. A year later, when new tech officers arrived, they were told, if you run into a problem that feels unsolvable, wait for Wednesday. There's a civilian consultant. Ask respectfully, and she might help you see a system you didn't know existed. Today, military cybersecurity across all branches still runs on methods created by someone who appears in no official roster. A woman who chose to remain a ghost rather than reclaim a spotlight she never wanted. Be like Marla. Help even when no one sees you. Protect systems, even when those systems have forgotten you. And when they finally recognize your value, stay humble enough to keep working quietly. Because the most vital protection often comes from the ones who prefer to stay invisible. Real honor doesn't shout. It moves through checkpoints in silence, carrying worn notebooks, expired credentials, and a name that no longer exists in the system. But legends, they don't need systems to remember them. They leave behind something stronger, proof